It was a peaceful day on Earth, a day like any other, until the sky changed. The stars, once distant and comforting, seemed to shift in unnatural patterns. At first, no one knew what was happening. The news channels broadcasted strange reports from across the globe, unusual objects in the sky, sightings of ships unlike anything human eyes had ever seen. People thought it was a joke, or perhaps a prank. But as the hours passed, the truth began to settle in like a storm cloud, dark and unstoppable. On a military base just outside the city, Commander James Carter stared at the monitors. His mind raced as he watched the incoming data. The objects weren't moving like anything human-made, and their size was unimaginable. They weren't satellites. They weren't drones. This was something far worse. The first blast came just after sunset. It was sudden. It was terrifying. A massive explosion lit up the night sky over the ocean. The entire coastline shook as though a bomb had gone off underground. People screamed in panic as the ground trembled beneath them. The sound of the explosion echoed through the air for miles, and within minutes, chaos erupted in every major city. Carter immediately ordered his team into action. He had been trained for moments like this, but nothing could prepare him for what was unfolding. The communication systems went haywire, static drowning out any attempt to get a clear message. His team was working with the little information they had, piecing together whatever they could about the unknown enemy. Whatever it was destroying everything in its path. Burning cities, collapsing buildings, leaving nothing but ashes in its wake. "This is not a war. This is an invasion," Carter muttered under his breath. He glanced at the satellite images showing alien ships descending from the sky. Their shape was sleek, metallic, and utterly alien. There was no time to marvel at their technology, only time to act. He knew the world needed more than just military strategy now. It needed the will to survive. Carter's mind raced as he thought about humanity's response. The world was divided, but now it had to come together. There could be no hesitation. This was a fight for survival. He turned to his team and ordered them to prepare for immediate action. As the sun rose the next morning, humanity awoke to a nightmare. The skies were filled with alien ships, hovering over cities, ready to destroy whatever stood in their way. The humans had no idea what the aliens wanted, but what they did know was that their lives were in danger, and they had to fight back. Across the globe, world leaders began to meet. Some wanted to negotiate, thinking that peace might still be an option. But Carter knew better. He knew that humanity's strength wasn't in the ability to negotiate, but in its ability to fight. Humans had always faced challenges head-on. And now, this was no different. They would fight for their home, for their families, for their future. Commander Carter had no intention of backing down. It was time for humanity to show the aliens exactly who they were messing with. The countdown to war had begun. The world would never be the same again. The chaos of the previous day had left the world shaken. News reports continued to cover the alien invasion, with images of cities in ruins and people desperately trying to flee from the relentless destruction. But amidst the fear, something stirred within humanity, a strength that could not be easily broken. Commander James Carter, now back at military headquarters, felt the weight of the situation pressing down on him. His mind, focused and sharp, knew that the only way forward was to rally humanity together. The world had to unite, or it would fall. In a large briefing room filled with military officials, political leaders, and scientists, the tension was thick. Everyone had come together, but no one seemed to agree on what to do next. Some argued for surrender, hoping the aliens might show mercy. Others demanded an immediate counterattack, fearing that any hesitation would cost them their lives. Carter stood at the front of the room, his eyes scanning the faces of the people around him. He could see the doubt in their eyes. But there was something else, too, a spark. The human spirit was strong, even when it was tested. He cleared his throat and spoke with a calm but commanding voice. "We're not just defending Earth. We're defending who we are. We faced destruction before, and we always come back stronger. We're survivors. We fight." The room was silent for a moment, the weight of his words sinking in. The scientists and engineers were the first to respond. They began working on strategies, analyzing the alien technology, trying to figure out how it worked, how they could fight back. Meanwhile, the political leaders were working on securing alliances, reaching out to other nations for support. But the most important decision came from the military. Carter made it clear that humanity's fight wouldn't be just about power. It would be about strategy, unity, and determination. He wasn't going to let the aliens destroy everything the human race had built. He knew that humanity's greatest strength wasn't in their technology, but in their ability to come together, to fight for each other, to be resilient in the face of disaster. Around the world, messages of unity began to spread. People of all nations, races, and religions set aside their differences to stand together. The alien threat was bigger than anything humanity had ever faced, but so was humanity's will to survive. Communities rallied together to defend their homes. Soldiers prepared for battle. Families came together to protect one another. As Carter and his team continued to plan, they saw the determination in the eyes of every soldier, every civilian. It was clear now. Humanity would not surrender. They would not go quietly into the night. The human race was going to fight back, and they were going to do it with everything they had. The first counterattack was launched within days, though it was a small-scale mission. It wasn't about winning just yet. It was about sending a message. The aliens had underestimated humans. They had thought they could invade, destroy, and leave without resistance. But humanity's response would prove them wrong. The battle wasn't easy. The alien forces were advanced, their ships and weapons far beyond anything humanity had ever seen. But even in the face of overwhelming odds, humans fought with everything they had. It wasn't just the weapons that made them dangerous. It was their unbreakable spirit. And so, the world held its breath as humanity took its first stand against the invaders. The war had begun, but there was no turning back now. Humanity had shown that even when faced with destruction, they could rise up and fight back with relentless fury. The sun had barely risen over the horizon when the call came. It was time. Time to show the invaders that humanity was not a species to be underestimated. Commander James Carter stood in front of the war room, watching the teams of soldiers prepare for the first real counterattack. His heart was heavy, knowing that this would be the moment that defined whether humanity could truly fight back. The air was thick with tension. Across the world, troops were mobilizing, weapons being checked, and ships being prepped for battle. Human forces had gathered every weapon they could find. From the most advanced space fleets to the most basic ground units, the plan was simple: strike hard and fast, disrupt the alien forces, and send a message they wouldn't forget. As Carter stood on the command deck of his warship, he looked out across the vast expanse of space. The alien ships were still hovering above Earth's cities, their menacing forms blocking out the stars. It was a daunting sight, but Carter was focused. He'd seen this kind of threat before. Humanity had always come through when it mattered most. "Commander, we're ready," said Captain Leah Turner, the officer responsible for the fleet's coordination. She was one of the best, quick-thinking, and always prepared for whatever came next. "Make sure the message is clear," Carter replied, his voice steady. "We're not just defending Earth. We're showing them that humanity will fight for every inch of this planet." The signal was given, and the fleet sprang into action. Thousands of human ships, both military and civilian, launched into the skies. The first wave of fighters cut through the alien defenses, their weapons firing in coordinated bursts. The air crackled with energy as both sides collided in a fierce battle. At first, the aliens retaliated swiftly, their weapons far more advanced than anything humanity had. Ships exploded in flashes of light, and the sound of metal tearing through space echoed in the vacuum. But the humans weren't backing down. They fought with a fierceness that came from the deepest core of their being, the survival instinct that had driven them for centuries. Carter's ship was at the front of the charge. His command was to strike at the heart of the alien fleet, to send the message that humanity wasn't just going to sit back and watch as their world was taken. They would fight with everything they had. The battle was intense, with the humans using every trick they knew to gain an edge. They launched missiles, fired lasers, and used evasive maneuvers that seemed reckless, but somehow worked. The aliens, with all their advanced technology, had never encountered a foe like humanity, a foe that would not give up, no matter the odds. Then, as the tide seemed to be turning in favor of the aliens, a brilliant move by Carter's fleet turned the momentum. A squadron of human warships, led by Carter himself, performed a daring maneuver, flanking the alien fleet and launching a surprise attack from behind. The shock was enough to make the aliens retreat, their ships in disarray. Humanity had taken the first step toward victory. Though the battle was far from over, the message had been sent. Earth would not go down without a fight. Carter watched as the alien ships pulled back, leaving Earth's skies momentarily clear. The humans had done the impossible, showing the invaders that they had underestimated the strength, the fury of the human race. But Carter knew this was just the beginning. The aliens would return stronger than ever, and humanity's fight was far from over. The victory was short-lived. As the human forces celebrated their first real win in the war, a new threat emerged. The alien fleet, now regrouped, was far larger than anyone had imagined. The brief moment of hope that humanity had clung to began to fade as a new wave of alien ships appeared on the radar. This time, they came in numbers so great that it seemed impossible for the humans to hold their ground. Commander James Carter watched as the first reports came in. He had expected the aliens to retaliate, but not like this. The enemy was changing their strategy, moving faster and hitting harder. The battle was about to escalate to a level no one had prepared for. "Get ready," Carter said, his voice calm but with an edge of urgency. "This won't be like last time. They've learned from their mistakes." Across the world, military leaders prepared for the worst. The alien ships, sleek and terrifying, moved in perfect formation, covering the sky in a black blanket. They didn't make a move at first, as if waiting to see how humanity would respond. And when the first human missile was launched, they struck back. The aliens unleashed their full power. Their ships fired beams of energy so strong that entire human fleets were destroyed in seconds. The lights from the blasts lit up the sky, creating a haunting scene. Each shot from the alien weapons felt like the Earth itself was being torn apart. Humanity's previous victory felt like a distant dream, replaced by the cold reality of what they were up against. Despite the devastation, Commander Carter refused to show fear. He knew this battle wasn't about winning every time. It was about survival. He rallied his troops, sending out new orders. "We're not just defending Earth anymore. We're defending every life on this planet. We will fight. We will survive." But even as the words left his mouth, doubt began to spread. The alien forces were unlike anything humanity had ever faced. Their weapons were more advanced, their ships faster and more agile. It was clear that Earth's forces were outmatched, and the situation was becoming desperate. Back on Earth, cities were falling one by one. The sky was filled with alien ships, each one a symbol of humanity's fading hope. The invaders attacked from every direction, and the humans were overwhelmed. Carter watched from his command center, feeling the weight of responsibility pressing down on him. Yet, despite the odds, humanity wasn't done. People all over the world, soldiers, scientists, and ordinary civilians, were coming up with new ways to fight back. In the face of defeat, humans showed their greatest strength, their creativity and determination. They built new weapons, created new strategies, and found ways to use their weaknesses as strengths. They were down, but not out. The alien response had been devastating, but it also awakened something within humanity. The fight was far from over. The world was in crisis, but the human spirit would not be easily crushed. Carter knew they couldn't win every battle, but as long as they kept fighting, there was still hope. And in that moment, as the skies above Earth darkened with the alien forces, Carter made a promise to himself and to everyone who had put their trust in him. They would not give up. The human race would show the aliens that their relentless fury was just beginning. The alien forces had hit harder than ever before, leaving the world battered and scarred. Yet, humanity was still standing. Commander James Carter knew that this fight was far from over, but a new idea was beginning to form in his mind. Earth was struggling alone, but perhaps they didn't have to. If they could unite with other species, maybe they could stand a chance against the overwhelming alien forces. It was time to seek allies. Across the globe, leaders began to discuss one thing: unity. Countries set aside their differences, realizing that this fight was about survival, not borders. But Carter knew that humans couldn't just rely on their own strength. They needed help from other species, from others who had suffered under the same alien invaders. Carter turned to the few allies Earth had, alien species who had resisted the invaders in the past. Through secret channels, they made contact with those who had faced the same threat, who knew what it was like to be overrun and destroyed by the alien forces. There were whispers of a rebellion, of hidden outposts, of other races that refused to bow down. Carter's plan was simple: unite the outcasts, the fighters, the survivors. Together, they could show the invaders that Earth was not alone. The first contact was made with a species known as the Talnar. They were a proud race, known for their advanced technology, but also for their history of resistance. They had fought off invaders before, and though their planet was now a shadow of its former self, they still had the heart to fight. In a meeting deep within the Earth's underground command center, Carter spoke to the Talnar representatives. "We may not have the weapons or technology to match the invaders, but we have something far stronger. We have the will to survive. We have the human spirit." The Talnar, once hesitant, slowly nodded. They saw the fire in Carter's eyes, and they recognized the determination that humanity carried. After a tense silence, the leader of the Talnar stood and extended a hand. "We will join you," he said. "Together, we stand against this invasion." Word spread quickly. Earth's allies were no longer just distant figures. They were part of the fight now. The coalition of species formed, and a new force was born. A force built on unity, on the shared desire to protect their homes and their people. The human alliance was no longer just a human effort. It was a galactic one. Across the galaxy, more species joined the cause, some offering their advanced technology, others their warriors. What had once seemed like a lost cause was now a coordinated effort, a united front against the alien invaders. The aliens, who had once believed humanity would fall in a matter of weeks, now had to face an unexpected challenge. The galaxy was watching. The fight for Earth had become a fight for the survival of many races, all united under one banner. Carter knew that this new alliance was humanity's best hope. They had a long way to go before they could defeat the alien invaders, but for the first time in a long time, there was hope. Humans, once outnumbered and on the edge of extinction, were now leading a coalition that could change the fate of the galaxy. But as they prepared for the battles ahead, Carter couldn't shake the feeling that the aliens were preparing something much worse. A greater challenge, one that could tear this fragile alliance apart. But he didn't share that fear. For now, they had allies, and they were stronger together than they had ever been apart. And that was enough to push forward. The alliance had formed, and the hope of victory was finally within reach. Commander James Carter stood on the command deck of Earth's largest warship, gazing out at the fleet of ships gathered in space. A mix of human and alien vessels now filled the stars, ready for the most significant battle humanity had ever faced. The time had come to strike at the heart of the alien invasion. The plan was ambitious, but it was humanity's best shot. The Alliance would launch a full-scale attack on the alien mothership, the source of their power. The alien forces had been retreating slightly in recent weeks, likely regrouping after the human counterattack. But Carter knew they were only biding their time. preparing for a final devastating blow. He had to act before they did. "Are we ready?" Carter asked Captain Leah Turner, who was standing beside him. "We're as ready as we'll ever be, sir," Turner replied, her voice steady, but with a hint of tension. "All fleets are in position. We've got the Talonar's heavy artillery, the Nerese stealth ships, and our own forces. If we hit them hard and fast, we stand a chance." Carter nodded, the weight of responsibility settling on his shoulders. This wasn't just a battle for Earth anymore. It was a battle for the future of all life in the galaxy. If they failed here, everything they'd fought for would be lost. "Let's make sure they remember what happens when they mess with humanity," Carter said, his voice resolute. The first wave of ships launched into the depths of space, leaving Earth's atmosphere behind. The battle had begun. As the human and alien alliance fleets approached the alien mothership, the scale of the battle became clear. The mothership was enormous, far larger than any ship humanity had ever built. It was a dark, menacing structure, surrounded by smaller alien ships that moved in tight formations. The battle was already raging as the fleets of the Alliance engaged the alien forces. Carter's heart raced as he watched the first wave of ships engage the alien fighters. The Alliance's ships fired their weapons with precision, using a combination of human tactics and alien technology. The air crackled with energy as beams of light and explosions filled the space around them. The human fleet fought valiantly, but the alien forces were far more advanced in terms of technology and firepower. The battle raged on for hours. The Alliance's ships moved with a grace and power that surprised the aliens, but it became clear that this would not be an easy victory. The alien mothership unleashed a devastating weapon, a beam of pure energy that tore through the fleet, destroying entire ships in a single strike. Carter's hands gripped the railing in front of him, his eyes locked on the unfolding destruction. "Commander, we're losing ships," Captain Turner said urgently. "We can't keep up with their firepower. We need a new strategy." Carter's mind raced. The aliens were using their superior technology to overwhelm them, but humans were resourceful. Humans adapted. And that's exactly what they would do now. "Prepare the second wave," Carter ordered. "We're going to have to get closer, use their own weapons against them." It was a risky move, but it was humanity's only hope. Carter's fleet dove in, getting dangerously close to the mothership. In the chaos, they managed to find weak points in the alien defenses. Using the Talonar's advanced artillery, they targeted the mothership's power core. The final moments of the battle were a blur of explosions and laser fire. But when the dust settled, the alien mothership was in ruins. The remaining alien forces scattered, retreating in defeat. Carter stood silently on the command deck, watching as the last of the alien ships vanished into the stars. The battle was won, but the cost had been high. Many lives had been lost, and Earth's future was still uncertain. But for now, humanity had struck a powerful blow. They had faced the impossible, and they had come out victorious. And as Carter looked out into the vastness of space, he couldn't help but wonder, would the aliens return, or had they finally learned the true strength of the human spirit? The battle was over, but the cost was heavy. Humanity's first major victory against the alien invaders had been a hard-fought one, and though the alien mothership lay in ruins, the scars of the war were all too clear. Commander James Carter stood on the deck of his ship, looking out at the expanse of space. The stars, once a symbol of humanity's dreams, now seemed to mock them. They were free. For now. But the fight was far from over. He turned to Captain Leah Turner, who stood beside him, her expression a mixture of exhaustion and relief. "We did it," she said softly, almost as if she couldn't believe the words. Carter nodded, though his thoughts were elsewhere. "Yes, but this isn't over. The aliens will come back stronger. They've learned from this defeat, and we can't be naive enough to think they won't regroup." The victory had shattered the aliens' confidence, but Carter knew that they would not give up easily. The battle was a small step in a much larger war, one that could still be lost if they weren't careful. But in the aftermath, something began to shift. Humanity had shown that they could stand up to even the most advanced alien forces and win. Across Earth, celebrations erupted as the news spread of the victory. For the first time in weeks, there was a sense of relief, of unity. Nations that had been divided for years now came together, their people standing as one. It was a feeling Carter hadn't expected. Amid the destruction, he saw something unexpected, a ray of hope. In the days following the battle, the alliance between humans and their new alien allies grew stronger. The Talanar, the Narioi, and several other species who had joined the fight against the invaders began to share their knowledge and resources with humanity. Humans, in turn, taught their allies new strategies, tactics that had allowed them to outsmart the aliens in the first place. It was a true partnership, one that showed the power of cooperation and unity. But despite the growing strength of the alliance, Carter knew that the real war was just beginning. The alien invaders were regrouping. They had suffered heavy losses, but they were not defeated. Humanity's small victory had rattled them, but it had not broken them. "We've made a good start," Carter said, his voice resolute. "But we need to keep pushing forward. We have to strike before they can rebuild." "We will," Turner replied. "We're stronger now, with the support of our allies. We have a real chance." The next move would be crucial. Humanity needed to maintain its momentum, to keep its allies close and its enemies further away. But Carter wasn't just focused on military strategy anymore. He saw something more in this fight, a chance for humanity to prove that it wasn't just a species to be conquered. It was a species that could stand up, fight back, and fight for its future. The next few weeks were filled with preparation. Carter and his team worked with their allies to bolster defenses, create new weaponry, and train soldiers for the battles to come. But there was something else that lingered in the back of his mind, a sense of fear. Fear that perhaps, in their moment of triumph, they had missed something. The aliens had retreated, yes, but they hadn't disappeared. And next time, they would come back with vengeance. But Carter refused to let that fear paralyze him. Instead, it fueled him, pushing him and his team to work harder, to be ready. Humanity had already proven it could survive. Now it was time to show the galaxy that humanity could not only survive but thrive. The war was far from over, but for the first time in a long time, there was a glimmer of hope. It wasn't just a victory in battle. It was a victory of the human spirit. And that spirit would carry them through whatever came next. The war was far from over, but for the first time, humanity could see a glimmer of hope. After their hard-fought victory against the alien mothership, Commander James Carter knew that the next move would be their most critical yet. The alien forces, though scattered, were regrouping. They would be back, stronger and more determined than ever. Earth had just earned a short respite, but the true test was yet to come. The days following the battle were a blur of strategy and preparation. Carter and his team worked relentlessly, analyzing the alien technology they had captured, studying their tactics, and trying to predict their next move. The alien fleet may have been crippled, but it wasn't entirely destroyed. And that was the problem. They were still out there, and they would return with a vengeance. As Carter walked through the crowded war room, he could feel the weight of the situation pressing down on him. The faces of his officers and soldiers were filled with determination, but also a sense of anxiety. The aliens had proven themselves ruthless, and no one knew for sure when they would strike next. "We've gathered as much intel as we can," Captain Leah Turner said, handing Carter a report. "The aliens are rebuilding their fleet. We estimate they'll be ready to strike within a few weeks. We don't have much time." Carter studied the report carefully. "We need to move fast. If they've been regrouping, they'll come back stronger. We can't afford to wait and let them gain momentum." The next step was clear. Humankind had to take the fight to the aliens before they were fully ready. The plan was risky, but it was the only option they had. Earth's forces, along with their allies, would launch a final assault on the alien homeworld. This would be the decisive battle, the one that would either secure humanity's future or doom it forever. Carter gathered the leaders of the Alliance to discuss the operation. As they huddled around the table, he could see the uncertainty in their eyes. The aliens had taken everything from them: planets, resources, and lives. But there was no turning back now. "We've got one chance," Carter began, his voice steady and commanding. "If we don't hit them now, they'll rebuild and come back with an even greater force. We fought for too long, lost too many, to let this slip through our fingers. We strike now, while they're vulnerable." The room fell silent as each leader considered the risk. The plan was audacious, but there was no other choice. After a few moments, the leader of the Talinar, a fierce and wise warrior, stood up. "Humanity has proven its strength," the Talinar leader said. "We will follow you into this final battle. Together, we will end this." With the Alliance's support secured, the fleets began to mobilize. The entire galaxy watched as Earth prepared for the final countdown. Days passed in a haze of activity. The ships were readied, the soldiers trained, and the strategy finalized. Carter couldn't help but feel the weight of it all. This would be the moment that would decide their fate. If they succeeded, Earth and its allies would be free. But if they failed, it would mean the end of all they had fought for. The ships launched into the blackness of space, the countdown ticking in the background. The tension was palpable. This was it, the final push, humanity's last stand. As Carter looked out at the fleet, he felt a surge of pride. They had come so far, survived the impossible. And now they were going to fight with everything they had, to make sure that the light of humanity would not be extinguished. The war was reaching its climax. The final battle was ahead, and there would be no turning back. The silence of space was broken only by the hum of engines and the distant roar of weapons powering up. Commander James Carter stood at the front of the command center, staring out at the growing fleet of ships assembled for the final assault. This was it, the moment that would either secure humanity's future or end it forever. He couldn't help but feel the weight of responsibility bearing down on him, knowing that every decision made in the next few hours would change the fate of the galaxy. The final countdown had begun. "Commander, we're ready," Captain Leah Turner said, her voice steady but betraying a hint of nervousness. She stood beside him, her eyes scanning the vast fleet of ships that stretched out in front of them. Human ships, allied ships, all gathered for one purpose: to stop the alien invaders once and for all. "All right, let's do this," Carter replied, though his own voice held no trace of doubt. This wasn't just a battle for Earth, it was a battle for everything humanity stood for. Their determination, ingenuity, and unity would be tested like never before. The fleets launched with a thunderous roar, moving in perfect formation as they set course for the alien homeworld. As the ships traveled deeper into space, the reality of the mission began to settle in. The enemy was still out there, waiting, and they were expecting humanity's move. The aliens had been preparing for this moment, rebuilding their fleet and strengthening their defenses. But humanity wasn't going to let that stop them. For hours, they'd moved in silence, the tension growing with every passing second. Carter couldn't shake the feeling that something was off. The aliens were too quiet, too still. He had a sinking feeling that they were walking straight into a trap, but it was too late to turn back now. "We're approaching the outer perimeter of the enemy's defenses," Turner said, breaking the silence. "We need to proceed carefully. One wrong move, and the whole fleet could be wiped out." Carter nodded. They had to be cautious. The aliens would be watching their every move, waiting for the perfect opportunity to strike. It was a dangerous game, but it was one they had no choice but to play. The closer they got to the enemy homeworld, the more they realized how high the stakes were. Suddenly, a flash of light erupted from the distance. Carter's heart skipped a beat as he watched dozens of alien ships appear, emerging from the shadows like a horde of predators closing in for the kill. "They knew we were coming," Carter muttered under his breath. The battle had begun. A massive wave of alien ships surged forward, their weapons flashing as they began to attack. Humanity's fleet fought back with everything they had, unleashing a barrage of missiles and energy blasts that lit up the vastness of space. The alien ships were fast and deadly, but humanity had learned to adapt, to fight with cunning and strategy. It wasn't long before the tides began to turn. Humanity's alliance had proven itself stronger than anyone could have predicted. The alien forces, caught off guard by the sheer force and unity of their enemies, began to falter. The coordinated attacks from Earth and its allies started to take their toll, one ship after another falling under the relentless assault. Carter's eyes never left the battle unfolding before him. His heart raced with every explosion, every piece of debris that floated away into the void. The fight was brutal, but humanity had proven its worth. The enemy was not invincible, and for the first time, Carter could feel it. The hope, the belief that they might actually win. But there was no time to celebrate. The final blow had not yet been struck. The alien homeworld was still ahead, and there was one last challenge to overcome before the war could be won. The turning point had come. Humanity's determination had begun to break the aliens' resolve, but the real test was still ahead. The battle for survival wasn't over yet, and Commander Carter knew they had to press forward, no matter the cost. The fate of Earth, and of every living being in the galaxy, was in their hands. The final battle had been a blur of explosions, flashing lights, and the hum of ships hurtling through space at unimaginable speeds. Commander James Carter stood at the front of the command center, watching as the last of the alien fleet retreated into the depths of space. The battle was over. Humanity had won. But the victory didn't come easily. Thousands of lives had been lost, and the cost of this war had been more than anyone could have imagined. Yet despite the destruction, Earth's people stood tall. Together, with their allies, they had managed to defeat an enemy that had seemed invincible just months before. Carter took a deep breath, his mind still racing with the events of the last few days. The battle had been brutal, and humanity's forces had barely made it through the final wave of enemy ships. But they had done it. They had struck at the heart of the alien empire. And now, the alien forces were in retreat. The threat was no longer hanging over Earth's head. "We did it," Captain Leah Turner said quietly beside him, her voice filled with awe. "We actually did it." Carter nodded, his eyes still fixed on the screen before him. "Yes, but it's not just about winning. It's about what we do next." The war had taken its toll on everyone, soldiers, civilians, and allies alike. The battle had changed humanity forever, and there was no going back. But Carter knew that this victory wasn't the end. It was just the beginning of a new chapter for humanity and the galaxy. There would be rebuilding to do, healing, and new challenges to face. The victory was hard-earned, but it had proven something far more important than the defeat of an enemy. It had proven the strength and resilience of the human spirit. Around him, the command center was alive with activity. The war was over, but the real work was just beginning. The alien forces may have been defeated for now, but there were still questions to answer. Why had they invaded in the first place? What else was out there in the galaxy? And how would Earth prepare for any future threats? "We've shown them that we will fight," Carter said, turning to face the room. "But now we must show them that we can rebuild. We must show the galaxy what humanity is truly capable of." The room fell silent, the weight of his words sinking in. There was no longer a sense of fear or defeat in the air. Instead, it was filled with a quiet determination. Humanity had survived the impossible. They had faced an overwhelming force and come out victorious. But the battle for their future had only just begun. Outside the command center, Earth was already beginning to recover. The cities that had been destroyed by the alien invasion were slowly being rebuilt, and the world was beginning to heal. But the scars of the war would never fully fade. The lives lost, the sacrifices made, they would never be forgotten. As Carter looked out at the recovering Earth, he couldn't help but feel a sense of pride. They had fought for their survival and won, But more than that, they had shown the universe that humanity would never back down, no matter the odds. Humanity will stand strong, he whispered to himself, his gaze fixed on the horizon. And we will never forget the cost of our freedom. The victory had been hard-won, but it was a victory that would echo through the galaxy for years to come. The human spirit had been tested, and it had prevailed. The galaxy had learned that when humanity is pushed to the edge, it will fight with everything it has. And in the end, it will emerge stronger than ever.